Good morning, everyone. This is MP Strijdom from MineWarp, and with me, Jean Roux.
Good morning to the listeners. This is our first podcast and we would like to tell you about it.
Yes, the MineWarp podcast. We're very excited about it. And maybe before we actually start with the topic for today, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of why we decided to do this podcast.
MP, it's quite funny for a mining software company to get involved in podcasts, or maybe not. Tell us about it.
Well, MineWarp is a software company, but we engage with a wide group of thought leaders in the mining industry primarily, but not limited to the industry. And we go from mining professionals right through to technology thought leaders that provide services and solutions to the mining industry. And we found so much value in these discussions that we'd like to share our experiences with our listeners.
Yeah, MP, we've been privileged to put together an ecosystem of partners because many players in this market realized and have documented, like in the study of Deloitte of 2015, that the ecosystem is what's going to help digital transformation for mining. And as a result, we are bumping into really interesting people. And as you said, that's what we would like to share through this podcast.
So just before we start talking about the interesting people that we've met, I think you're pretty interesting. So Jean, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jean Roux. I have been with MineWarp for 6 years. Currently, I'm in the job of market trust and partner management, which is really configuring the message that we are taking to market with the partners. And then the partner management. We've got some real exciting stories to tell around how the ecosystem is developing. I'm going on 6 years in MineWarp, and my background is as consultant and manager in the tech industry. Previously, I've been with Deutsche Telekom T-Systems for 12 years, where I had a variety of jobs revolving around implementing enterprise systems. I've been privileged to be part of a management team that grew the size of the company dramatically and doubled the company every second year. And that has taught me a lot about how to scale up a business. Previously, I was in IBM in architecture and IT strategy consulting jobs. And what about yourself, MP?
Well, for my sins, I'm currently VP of Marketing for MineWarp. I also grew up in the tech industry, actually in the software development business, in a variety of industries, from financial services to fast-moving consumer goods, transport, logistics. And for the past close on 20 years, it's been actually 18 years that I've been with MineWarp.
Wow.
Focusing all of our attention in the mining industry. I'm currently part of the executive team here with you. It's our privilege to engage the mining industry about digital transformation. And we are seeing an industry change in front of our eyes. This is an exciting time if there's ever been one in mining.
MP, we'll introduce the audience to some of the other executives. One of the executives has the saying that you can't use a hype cycle and then talk about the hype cycle. You have to have engineered your strategy, and once the hype cycle gives a specific drive of a strategy a name, you should meet it. And that's the story of MineWarp that we would like to share.
Actually, our very next podcast, we're going to invite Executive Vice President for Strategy for MineWarp, as well as our President and CEO, to talk about MineWarp's strategy and how that meets where the industry is going. I think today we wanted to talk about the podcast a little bit. So we're naming it the MineWarp podcast. Jean, tell us a little bit more. Why MineWarp?
MP, together we were looking for a name, and as you know, in the internet today, there's a lot of squatting going on and lots of names have been taken. So then we thought, what are we about? Firstly, we're about mining or minerals. Secondly, what are we trying to show and share here? And what we're trying to do is to allow a faster flow of information to executives in digital transformation in mining or minerals management. And what better word than to choose than warp? For those Star Trekkies amongst you, MineWarp or warp drive or the speed of warp, all are named, and I was amazed when I Googled it to see how much scientific research is quoted So I'm reading off Wikipedia, a warp drive is a fictitious, faster than light spacecraft propulsion system in many science fiction works, most notably Star Trek. So they talk about how fast does it go than speed of light theoretically, how can it go, etc. So in summary, the mantra here is by listening to this podcast, you can do digital transformation faster than what you could have because you are able to listen to opinion makers and people that are doing active things with digital transformation in mining to give you further ideas of how to stimulate your discussions with your board and with your executive teams.
So just to make sure, when you listen to MineWarp, it's not going to be a MineRP podcast only. Certainly, we are going to be your hosts, but we intend to speak to many, many industry professionals out there, thought leaders, opinion makers and shakers, who are really shaping the way that the mining industry is adopting digital transformation, talking about what the industry should do with regards to the adoption of technology, but also talking about how it will change the face of mining and how businesses will do mining differently. We're not only going to have hosts on, but we're also going to talk about events, and we're going to discuss papers and other industry thinking that surfaces on LinkedIn and elsewhere. But certainly, the people that we're going to be interviewing are very exciting. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's some exciting stuff in MineWarp itself, but that's not what we want to focus on. We run into industry people, some of our clients, some of our partners, and others that have stuff to share around how digital transformation should be and what we should be looking out for. There's a plethora of technologies and strategies and ideas, and we would like to demystify some of these. Some of the people that we want to interview are partners, our ecosystem partners, and worldwide we're running into really interesting opinion makers. From Deloitte to General Electric to IBM to SAP. And then for the international audiences listening to this, we'll be interviewing more localized partners of MineWarp on the mining continents. Then with our client community, there are people doing amazing stuff around digital transformation. We'll be interviewing them. And then here and there, we'll throw in some opinions about that MineWarp has on topics that we are working on.
We'll want to definitely hear what these guys have to say and about digital transformation, of course. But we also want to introduce the people to you. So we're going to focus on the people and let them talk about their background and why they are to be considered thought leaders. I think we look at big names like the Elon Musks of the world and the Hasso Plattner at SAP and many household names like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and others. And the people are just as interesting as the things that they talk about. So we'll be asking them personal questions as well, won't we?
Absolutely. Talking about that, MP, and we should get to the end of the podcast. It's an introduction for the others. So what we've also decided is to ask, what are they reading and what do they see as transforming to their thinking for digital transformation? What are you reading currently, or what are you going to read, MP?
So a book that's very interesting at the moment that I'm busy working through is called The Four, written by Scott Galloway. The subtitle is The Hidden DNA of Amazon, Apple, Facebook and Google. It's a book that considers the enormous power accrued by the big four technology giants, and it dives into how these companies exploit customer primal instinct to engage online.
Wow.
And also how it collects data about us, both for ill and for good, of course. But primarily it thinks about the impact of the digital age on our world and how the world will change as a result of how these companies grow. Yeah, so I think it applies very well to, firstly, to my personal interest, of course, but then to digital transformation in general. It's not only industries that are transformed, but the world is being transformed around us.
Wow, MP. I think we should also add to the show notes those books that the interviewees quotes to us. What do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what's on your bedside table?
MP, I play with technologies at home. I build things. So I've got lots of reading to do, and I'm coming to really interesting conclusions about how the future is deploying. But at the same time, as we talk to clients and others, I realized that the people is all important during this transformation journey. There's a lot of fears that people has, and it's only people and managers that can improve businesses. So on my reading list are old books and a new book. So I went into my library to go and search for some old favorites, and a very big favorite book that I had that a lot of what I did was shaped around is From Good to Great from Jim Collins. In this book, as many listeners would know, he has studied 1,470 odd companies and looked at which ones had an inflection point that gave them dramatic growth compared to other industry players. There's a huge amount of fantastic lessons to be learned in there, but a lot about leaders and how leaders are almost the only lever to be able to make a change. I ran into another book yesterday that has been co-authored by Jim Collins, but a book from Morten Hansen called Great at Work. And in this book, he talks about rapid learning at work really requires nimble, immediate feedback. Then I thought, isn't that really what digital transformation is about? Isn't it about systems that can give people immediate feedback as well as back to machines, such that we can make very small improvements to digital transformation? MP, yesterday I went to the embassy agent of the United States, and again there I saw how people and technology work together to completely, radically re-engineer a process. When you get into the row in front, somebody stands there with an iPad, check if you have been booked in, and the whole process runs very, very fast through that.
Yeah.
So, I think let's, through this podcast, also not underestimate the amount of change we have to do for leaders and with people in order to achieve radical transformation.
It reminds me of a favorite saying of Rig Howe's, CEO of Dundee Precious Metals. When he talks about digital transformation, he always says that it is process-driven, people-led, and technology-enabled. So certainly the process part, how we will start doing things differently because of the enabling that we gain from technology is incredible. And but processes only work when they are enabled by people again, or when they are used by people.
Epi, we have to sign off. We also want your feedback on the podcast. Please give us the feedback. We'll be posting in the show notes where you can do that.
Absolutely. If you have suggestions, people that you think we should talk to, or even topics that you'd like to hear more about, let us know, and we will make all the effort that we can to get to the right people and make sure that we get informed opinions live on our podcast.
MP, we have to sign off.
Thanks a lot. Speak to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.